jeopardize their career for something that seems, ridiculous. And the well, the mindset of many, particularly in science, that want to turn a blind eye to even exploring these things that certainly deserve exploration because there's certainly enough um, evidence or indications that these things uh, are out there and should be begun to be explored. That a language for talking about these things should begin to unfold that isn't uh, dismissed either as science fiction or ridiculousness, and that a certain level of seriousness be used in taking a look at these things. If you look at, for instance, the Academy Awards, if you happen to see, uh, Best Picture was a movie that a lot of people thought would make it. Uh, it was called. It was a story about an unusual creature and scientists who research it, and a love story um, between this creature and at your television programs and movies. We're seeing an awful lot more stories about mystery and powerful abilities that people can tap into, and a lot of science fiction and a lot of exploration of mystical ideas. I think it's fascinating to watch how they are coming through in these stories. I did a film, about 10 years ago now, called Spirituality in Film, A Shamanic Journey, which kind of touched on that topic a bit, looking at movies and how their idea of spirituality or a metaphysical ideas coming through. And now, 10 or so years later, there's even more of it. And it's mostly represented because fantasy and science fiction films can more quickly present these ideas. So you're seeing a lot more of that. But it's coming through in, other types of films as well. So I think we're in a time when our willingness to look at some of these things may just be changing. So I want to tell you about this government program that has been around for since 2007 and apparently ended in 2012. Now, there's a Pentagon official who recently revealed the existence of this program. And he is saying, he's talking to uh, a lot of the news outlets, saying that he believes that there is evidence for alien life reaching Earth. Now, his name is Luis Elizondo, and he says that his personal belief is that there is a very compelling evidence that we may not be alone. Now, a pair of news reports in the New York Times and Politico uh, revealed that the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program uh, which is the name of this program that was looking for UFOs, that this program was begun largely at the behest of the then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid from Nevada, who helped shore up funding for it after speaking to a friend and political donor who owns an aerospace company and has said he believes in the existence of aliens. Now, Elizondo said he resigned from the Department of Defense in October in protest over what he called the excessive secrecy surrounding the program and internal opposition to it after funding for the effort ended in 2012. Elizondo said Monday that he could not speak on behalf of the government, but he strongly implied that there was evidence that stopped him from ruling out the possibility that alien aircraft visited Earth. These aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory, nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of, Elizondo said of the objects that they researched. He said the program sought to identify what had been seen either through tools or eyewitness reports, and then ascertain and determine if that information is a potential threat to national security. We found a lot, Elizondo said. He said they identified anomalous aircraft that were seemingly defying the laws of aerodynamics. Things that don't have any obvious flight services, any obvious forms of propulsion, and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability beyond, I would submit, the healthy G-forces of a human or anything biological, Elizondo said. Now, the Times report on the government UFO study included a pair of videos of pilots remarking on something mysterious they were seeing. One of the pilots, retired Commander David Fravor, told CNN that he had witnessed an object that looked like a 40-foot-long tic-tac maneuvering rapidly and changing its direction during a 2004 flight. Ryan Alexander of Taxpayers for Common Sense expressed dismay about the situation, about the program, and cast it as a waste of money in a piece that aired on CNN. He thinks it's crazy to spend $22 million to research UFOs. Pilots are always going to see things that they can't identify, and we should probably look into them. But to identify them as UFOs, to target UFOs to research, that is not the priority we have as a national security matter right now. And Elizondo says, I'm proud of this program and its groundbreaking studies. They speak for themselves. It is silly and counterproductive to politicize the serious scientific questions raised by the work of this program, which was funded on a bipartisan basis. So, again, that you have this ongoing want or need to sort of discount anything that is mysterious or speaks of something that's beyond what we know in our, everyday kind of existence. So it was $22 million, which in a $600 billion plus annual defense budget, which is what we have, that's a drop in the bucket. And looking into aircraft or crafts where you don't know where they come from, and they're exhibiting some very strange tendencies, I think that is an important part of our defense, because you need to know what those things are. You need to be able to protect yourself against them if they happen to be something that might have an intent of harm. So, but the fact that this needed to remain in the shadows also says an awful lot about, our kind of dual nature about these things. We're interested and we kind of believe and we want to believe, but then we got to keep it hush hush. We can't let anybody know about it because there's a stigma to it. So what I'm hoping in this story coming out, that and other things that are happening, that perhaps our consciousness is ready to look at these things with a little bit more seriousness. And we have been, there certainly is SETI, which is the program that searches for extraterrestrial intelligence, and that still is running and has been for many years. And before this particular UFO program, there was another program which kind of wrapped up in the 90s, but that had been, that was called Project Blue Book, by the way. That had been looking into UFOs as well. So we have always had some sort of program out there, and I'm sure that there's something out there right now. It's, kind of taking the place of this. And well, if you think about it, there's got to be a reason for that, right? And the reason is that we're having sightings of things that we don't know, we don't understand. So I think it's kind of important to put some focus into that. Also talk about the untrue, or what has come to be known as fake news. And it's fascinating to me in this time where I think we really are having a discussion about what's true and what's real and what's not, and what does truth even mean anymore. Because this rise in fake news and this kind of attraction that we have to, or confusion that we're having over, what we're reading, what we're hearing about, the truth of it. I think it's a very fascinating conversation to have, because while not be true, or as far as the facts that you can verify, there's truth behind it or truth underneath it, and quite often that kind of truth is more compelling than just facts and figures. But there's an article here about a research study conducted by MIT, looking at the use of news stories and how fake news stories are proliferated, and finding ways of sorting out factual information is becoming increasingly important, as manipulation of information on social media is becoming very, very much a thing in the news. They're talking now about how the Russians may have manipulated or tried to manipulate information to kind of mess with our election. So new efforts are being made towards this end, such as Facebook's endeavor in tackling the problem as it exists on its own site. But this research study made use of news stories that had either been verified or debunked by 6 fact-checking organizations. And by the way, if you ever are in doubt about anything that you read or hear, whether it's on this show or on Facebook or anything, these are all websites that will, help you find the truth, if you will. One is called Snopes, SNOPS.com. Then there's PolitiFact, PolitiFact.com, FactCheck,